to whom? Is it just some troll
Yeah,
on Twitter
exactly.
who's going to
it's
say
all fake.
that this doesn't have consensus, or is it
Yeah.
just this council of well trained and, how should I put it, fluent in C++ core developers or whatever who are working on the core project?
Something controversial.
But the point is that if you read Roger Ver's book, which is called Hijacking Bitcoin, he describes the situation with Tamos from, I think it was the summer of 2015, when basically he did not allow any conversation to happen on our Bitcoin about Bitcoin XT, which was supposed to be a hard fork, because he considered that Bitcoin XT is an altcoin. It goes all the way there, where he described consensus as having nearly anonymous acceptance among the elites.
Right.
And right now they took the same criteria, which were being used for hard forks, and they applied them for soft forks, which are optional, which is very interesting.
Exactly. No, this is an extremely important point. The word consensus means the actual English word means that everyone in the room agrees. It has never been how any real group of humans operates, and it has never been how Bitcoin Core operates. Now, Bitcoin Core is a group of people, but very misleadingly, there's an equivocation where the same word consensus is used by the software to describe the bytes in the blockchain, where everyone has to have the exact same bytes, the exact same order. That is necessary for Bitcoin to function, and that is how it works. And so people kind of play this like maybe kind of hypnosis shell game. They don't realize they're doing it, perhaps. But yeah, it was a consensus in the software, consensus among humans, total consensus required for a hard fork. By the way, that's not true. Just kind of a overwhelming majority would really be what was literally an actual description of what's happening. But then the whole point of the soft fork being invented in 2012 is that it does not require consensus. So that the fact that people are now backfilling that requirement, that's like saying, the whole point of like flying in an airplane is that we don't need to use a boat, but then you keep you take off with the airplane and the airplane just like glides across the surface of the water or something. It's like we're going to take a plane from London to New York or something, and it's going to go like you're in like a 747 like on the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. So that's all this is very depressing. The idea that soft forks require consent, that is one of the derangements. The fact that nothing can get done. We haven't had any soft forks in many years. There's no hope of having any in the future. The miners have abdicated their role even to care about their own bottom line. The mining pools mostly care about competing against other pools, so they're not even happy when the Bitcoin price goes up or when transaction fees go up. And the ASIC manufacturers would be the beneficiaries, and the people who own the ASICs would be beneficiaries, but they're diffuse. So yeah, there's unfortunately a lot of like these problems, these derangements. These are problems that persist, and they're not really getting any better. And so I think it points to a question of start over with something new, or try to continue to fix what might be broken beyond repair.
Yeah, it's a very useful conversation to be had, because going back to the block size wars, I don't think at the time the conversation was that BTC was going to become a store of value and BCH was going to become the medium of exchange, and then we're going to see which one the market picks. It was all about, okay, this one is going to activate SegWit and try the Lightning Network, which is a layer 2, and this other one is going to try on-chain scaling, increase the block size. It was two technical approaches to achieve the same problem, which was to make Bitcoin work as money. But somewhere along the way, Lightning never delivered, not in the way that they promised, because there's always going to be someone on the beach in El Salvador saying, what do you mean I use Lightning every day? And
yeah,
BCH never took off for different reasons. First of all, because they kept on fighting. They had a lot of infighting, and they had two different forks that emerged from BCH. There was BSV and then also the eCash one. I think it's XEC. And they also had Craig Wright, who sort of destroyed everything. They made the movement look sort of crazy and cultish. And I guess also the market was not mature enough to handle these.
Yeah, it's a separate
situations.
issue. I think why Bitcoin Cash did not do very well, and I have been on the Bitcoin Cash podcast trying to explain it to them, and they're not super thrilled, by the. But I think I have a big list. I had a big list as my green table that I published about. But there's so many things to say. So if we could just change gears and just talk about Bitcoin Cash for a while, because I think part of the problem with the BTC Bitcoin Core derangements is that there's no competition keeping everything healthy. There's just one good project. Then there's like Ethereum, and then there's like some other projects. But if those other projects were, hot on our tail or nipping at our heels, you wouldn't be able to have these derangements. People would get rid of them. It's like if you're fighting a war and one person has one side has like a bunch of DEI, like irrelevant hiring criteria, and then the other side, they're hopeless. They're never going to win the war. Well, then